My dad sent a message, don't try coming to the family reunion. I just texted back, understood. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for your support means the world to us. Back to my story. The phone buzzed just after midnight. Half asleep, he reached over, expecting it to be another work notification, or maybe a late-night message from a friend. Instead, his heart froze when he saw the sender, Dad. It had been months since his father last reached out. Their conversations were rare, often strained, and usually ended with silence or anger. But this was different. It wasn't a call. It wasn't even a question. It was a single, sharp sentence that cut deeper than any argument ever had. Don't try coming to the family reunion. His throat went dry. For years, he had longed for that one moment of belonging, the chance to stand among his relatives without feeling like an outsider. And now, even that small hope had been ripped away with 7 careless words. He sat up in bed, staring at the message, fingers trembling over the screen. A dozen responses swirled in his mind: anger, pleading, confusion. But in the end, he typed only one word: understood. As he hit send, something inside him cracked. This wasn't just rejection, this was exile. The glow of the phone screen dimmed, but the words refused to fade from his mind. Don't try coming to the family reunion. They echoed in his chest, dragging him backward through years of memories he had tried so hard to bury. He remembered being 12, sitting at the long dining table while his siblings laughed and traded jokes. His father smiled at them, proud and warm, but when his eyes shifted toward him, the smile vanished, replaced by a look that carried both disappointment and disdain. Eat faster, his father had muttered, loud enough for the others to hear. It was always like that, small comments, sharp enough to sting, but never enough for anyone else to call it cruelty. By 16, the distance had grown wider. While his siblings were praised for sports trophies and good grades, his own accomplishments were brushed aside. When he won a regional writing contest, he came home with the certificate clutched in his hand, expecting, even hoping, for approval. Instead, his father glanced at it, grunted, and went back to reading the newspaper. His mother tried to defend him, but her words dissolved into the usual silence that followed whenever his father made a final judgment. Now, as an adult, those memories burned brighter than ever. The reunion had felt like his last chance to stitch together the broken threads. He had imagined arriving, shaking hands, and maybe, just maybe, hearing his father call him son without bitterness. But the message on his phone was proof. His father didn't want him there. Not now, not ever. Anger rose in his chest, colliding with sorrow until his hands shook. Was this punishment? For what? For being different, for never fitting the mold his father had carved for his other children. He thought of his siblings, how they would gather soon, smiling in family photos, posting on social media about togetherness, while his absence remained unspoken. He lay back in bed, staring at the ceiling, a knot forming in his stomach. This wasn't just about missing a reunion. It was about a truth he had yet to uncover, a reason deeper than rejection. His father wasn't just pushing him away. He was hiding something, and that thought was more painful than the message itself. The following morning, the message still gnawed at him. He sat at the kitchen table, untouched coffee growing cold beside him. His phone vibrated again, this time, not from his father, but from his cousin, Daniel. Hey, I heard about the reunion, you okay? He hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Few people in the family ever acknowledged the rift between him and his father. Most pretended nothing was wrong, afraid to disturb the illusion of unity. He typed back, he told me not to come, nothing new. The reply came quickly, it's not that simple. He's keeping something from you. His chest tightened, he dialed immediately. Daniel's voice was hushed, as if someone might overhear. Look, your dad doesn't want you there because there are things he doesn't want you to know. Things about the family. What things? He demanded. I can't say over the phone, Daniel muttered. But you deserve to know, just. Don't tell him we talked. The line went dead, leaving a heavy silence in its place. His pulse raced. It wasn't just rejection anymore, it was secrecy. A deliberate effort to keep him in the dark. He thought back to the countless times he'd been excluded from conversations as a child. The moments when relatives whispered, just as he entered the room. Were those all fragments of this larger secret? He scrolled through social media later that day. Posts from his siblings appeared, smiling selfies of them preparing for the reunion. Captions full of joy, not one mention of him. It was as if he didn't exist. The hurt dug deeper, but beneath it, determination sparked. If there truly was something his father didn't want him to know, he couldn't stay away. For the first time in years, Anger and curiosity pulled him in the same direction. The reunion wasn't just a gathering anymore. It was the only chance to uncover the truth. He closed his laptop, staring out the window at the fading afternoon light. His father's warning replayed in his head. Don't try coming to the reunion. But now it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation, a challenge. And he intended to accept it. Sleep refused to come that night. He tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling as his father's message echoed over and over. Don't try coming to the family reunion. It was supposed to be final. But instead it felt like a lock on a door he was suddenly desperate to open. By dawn, his mind was made up. He couldn't let this go. Not when Daniel's warning suggested that something bigger was at stake. He pulled out an old notebook, the one where he scribbled thoughts whenever his mind was restless, and began listing reasons to stay away versus reasons to go. On one side, the risks, humiliation if he showed up unwelcome, more anger from his father, the possibility of being turned away in front of the entire family. On the other side, the reasons to go, answers, closure, and the gnawing possibility that there was a secret that explained everything about his place, or lack of it, in the family. By the time he finished, the second list outweighed the first. Still, he couldn't just walk in openly. If his father had gone so far as to forbid him, then he would need to be careful. He decided he wouldn't announce his arrival. Instead, he would come quietly, blend into the background, and watch. He didn't want confrontation, he wanted truth. He pulled up the details of the reunion. It was being held at his grandparents' old estate, the place where so many of his childhood memories were carved in both laughter and pain. He hadn't stepped foot there in years, not since his father had made it clear that he wasn't welcome. Just the thought of walking those halls again sent a shiver down his spine. But this time would be different. He wasn't coming as the outcast hoping for approval. He was coming as a man determined to uncover what his father had worked so hard to hide. He packed a small bag, tossing in only what he needed. Clothes, a notebook, his phone charger. He zipped it shut with finality. Enough hiding, he whispered to himself. If there's a truth buried there, I'll find it. And with that, the decision was sealed. The reunion would go on without his blessing, but not without his presence. The drive to the estate felt longer than ever, though he knew every turn of the road by heart. The highway stretched endlessly before him, lined with trees that blurred into shadows as the sun dipped lower in the sky. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles white as memories clawed their way back. Birthday parties where he was ignored. Family dinners where his voice never mattered. Christmas mornings where his gifts were always an afterthought. Now, the same estate that had been a backdrop to those memories loomed ahead. Its tall gates stood like iron guards, keeping out not just strangers, but him. The gravel path curved toward the house, glowing with strings of warm lights draped across the trees. Music floated through the night air, mingled with the hum of laughter. He pulled off the road before reaching the gates, parking in the shadows where no one would notice his car. Stepping out, the crunch of gravel under his shoes felt louder than it should, every sound magnified by the pounding of his heartbeat. He adjusted the strap of his bag, then moved closer on foot, drawn by the glow and the voices. From a distance he could see them, his siblings, their children, cousins, all gathered in clusters on the lawn. Smiles lit up their faces, wine glasses sparkled in the light, and for a moment he felt like an intruder peering into a world he no longer belonged to. But just as quickly, anger pushed the sorrow aside. Why shouldn't I belong? He was blood. He had every right to be there. It was his father who had turned him into a ghost. He lingered near the side of the property, hidden behind a tree. Every laugh carried a sting, every cheer a reminder that his absence wasn't even noticed. Then he spotted him, his father, standing tall at the center of it all, shaking hands, commanding attention. The same man who had sent that cold message, as though casting out a stranger, not a son. His chest tightened. He was so close now. The answers, the truth, the reason behind the years of rejection, they were right there beyond the lights. And he intended to take them, no matter what it cost. He lingered in the shadows, watching the family he hadn't seen in years. He could almost convince himself he was invisible, just another figure passing by on the edge of the celebration. But fate had other plans. You shouldn't be here. The voice came from behind him. He spun around, startled, and found himself staring at his younger brother. Michael, the years had changed him, broader shoulders, sharper features, but the same eyes that once looked up to him as a child now stared with unease. Michael glanced back toward the party, then stepped closer, lowering his voice. Dad said you weren't supposed to come. Yeah, he muttered bitterly. I got the message, but I had to see for myself. Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. You don't understand. It's not just about you not getting along with him. There are things, he stopped himself, shaking his head, things Dad doesn't want brought up. If you stay, it'll only get worse. His heart raced. Then tell me, what is he hiding? Michael's lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, it looked as though he might finally reveal the secret. But then his gaze shifted nervously toward the estate. I can't, he whispered. Not here, not now. Frustration burned through him. You sound just like him, always covering, always protecting. Do you even hear yourself? Michael flinched, his voice sharp but quiet. I'm protecting you. You think I like lying. You think I like pretending nothing's wrong. But if you push this, if you show up in there, you're not just going to embarrass yourself. You're going to start something none of us can stop. The words chilled him more than he expected. What could be so dangerous, so destructive, that even Michael was afraid to speak of it? Before he could press further, a burst of laughter erupted from the patio. The sound made Michael step back. His face pale. Please, he begged. Go before they see you. Don't make this harder than it already is. But he couldn't leave, not now. The secret was too close, the truth brushing against him like a shadow. I'm staying, he said firmly, whether Dad likes it or not. Michael's eyes filled with dread. Then God help us all. He remained in the shadows after Michael walked away, his brother's warning echoing in his ears. If you push this, you're going to start something none of us can stop. The words rattled inside him, sharp and cryptic. What could his father possibly be hiding that would tear the family apart? He moved closer to the house, keeping to the side garden where the tall hedges shielded him from view. The patio door stood open, spilling warm light and music into the night. He crouched low, every step deliberate, until he found himself near the study window. The heavy curtains were parted just enough for him to see inside. There he was, his father, broad-shouldered even in age, standing with a glass of whiskey in hand, his voice low but firm. Across from him stood Uncle Richard, the one relative who never smiled and always spoke in clipped tones. He cannot find out, his father said. His jaw clenched. If he does, everything we've built collapses. The family name, the business, the reputation, it all comes down with it. Uncle Richard nodded gravely. You should have cut him off years ago. The boy doesn't know his place. His chest tightened. They weren't talking about his attitude or mistakes. They were talking about something bigger, something tied to identity, legacy, perhaps even blood. He leaned closer, straining to catch every word. He doesn't belong at that reunion, his father continued, because he doesn't belong to this family, not truly. The world seemed to tilt beneath him. His pulse roared in his ears as he stumbled back, the words slicing through him. Doesn't belong, not truly family. What did that mean? Was he adopted? Was his father not his father at all? His grip tightened on the window frame as rage and confusion collided. For years, he had been treated like an outsider, pushed aside, silenced, and now he knew why. His father hadn't seen him as one of them all along. Inside the study, his father's voice dropped even lower, almost a growl. If the truth comes out, I'll lose everything. That boy can never know. But it was too late. He knew enough. Enough to demand answers. Enough to burn through the lies. He stumbled back from the window, his father's words echoing like a curse. He doesn't belong to this family. Not truly. The night air felt heavier now, pressing down on him as though even the earth wanted him to stay silent. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every memory of rejection, every cold glance and cutting remark, it all made sense now. His father had never seen him as one of them. But why? What truth was so dangerous it had to be buried? As he moved through the shadows, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." He turned sharply and found himself face to face with Aunt Margaret. Her expression was softer than he expected, not angry, but weary, as if she had been carrying the same weight for years. "I heard," he said hoarsely. "I know what Dad said." Her eyes darted toward the study window. Then back to him she sighed, pulling him deeper into the shadows where no one could see. "You weren't supposed to find out like this," she whispered, "but maybe it's time." His heart pounded. "Then tell me. What am I? What's the truth?" Tears welled in her eyes. "The man you call your father isn't your biological father. Your mother had a child before she married him. That child was you. He agreed to raise you, but he never forgave her. To him, you've always been a reminder of betrayal, of secrets he couldn't bury." The ground seemed to vanish beneath his feet. The puzzle pieces locked into place. The rejection, the disdain, the deliberate exclusion. It wasn't about him failing to live up to expectations. It was about blood. He was never his son, at least not in his father's eyes. He staggered back, struggling to process it. So all these years, I was nothing to him. Margaret's voice cracked. Not nothing. Just not his, but your family. Whether he accepts it or not, blood isn't the only thing that makes you belong. Her words offered little comfort. The truth cut deeper than the lie ever had. His father hadn't just rejected him, he had erased him. And now the whole family would know. He could no longer stay in the shadows. The secret burned inside him, too heavy to keep hidden. His father's rejection, the years of silent cruelty, Aunt Margaret's revelation. It all crashed together like a storm demanding release. He pushed through the side doors into the bright glow of the reunion hall. Heads turned immediately, conversations stilled. The music seemed to die mid-note as every face shifted toward him. The son who wasn't supposed to be there. His father's jaw clenched, eyes narrowing. You were told not to come. But he didn't flinch. His voice rose above the stunned silence. Told not to come because you were afraid. Afraid everyone here would find out the truth. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cousins exchanged uneasy glances. His siblings froze mid-smile. Glasses paused halfway to lips. His father's face turned pale, the authority in his voice cracking as he barked. Enough, leave now. No, he shot back, his chest heaving. I've spent my entire life wondering why I was never good enough. Why I was treated like a stranger in my own home. And tonight I finally understand. Gasps echoed as his aunt stepped forward, tears streaking her face. He has a right to know. The room seemed to tilt. His father's mask of control faltered, rage and fear flickering in his eyes. But before the older man could silence her, he took a step closer, his voice trembling but steady. You've hidden it long enough. Tell everyone that I'm not your son. Tell them why you spent years trying to erase me. The silence was deafening. His siblings looked horrified, waiting for denial, for some explanation. But his father only clenched his fists, his silence louder than any confession. And in that silence, the truth spoke for itself. He turned, scanning the sea of shocked faces, his voice breaking as he said, Now you all know. I was never enough for him because I was never his. The room erupted, questions, shouts. Disbelief, but he no longer cared. For the first time, the weight of the lie was no longer his to carry. It belonged to his father. The reunion hall buzzed with chaos. Relatives argued in hushed tones, some demanding explanations, others staring at him as if seeing him for the first time. His father stood rooted in place, face ashen, lips pressed into a hard line. But still he said nothing. No denial, no apology, just silence. That silence was his answer. For years, he had begged for recognition, fought for scraps of approval, endured humiliation, all for a man who had never seen him as his own. And now the truth was out. Everyone knew. The secret his father guarded so fiercely had shattered under the weight of his words. He looked around at the family who once felt like strangers. Some averted their eyes, some looked guilty. Others, like Aunt Margaret, and even his younger brother Michael, watched with sorrow etched across their faces. Michael stepped forward, voice trembling. You're still my brother. No secret changes that. A tear slipped down his cheek before he could stop it. For the first time that night, the word brother didn't feel like a lie. He straightened his shoulders, the storm inside him settling into something calmer, something freer. I didn't come here to destroy this family, he said, his voice steady now. I came because I deserved the truth. And I have it, that's enough for me. Then he turned, walking out before anyone could stop him. The cool night air hit his face as he stepped onto the lawn, the music and voices fading behind him. Each step away from the estate felt lighter, as though he were finally shedding years of chains he never asked to wear. When he reached his car, he looked back one last time. The lights of the house glowed in the distance, but for the first time in his life, he didn't ache to be inside. He didn't ache to belong there, because now he understood. Family wasn't about bloodlines or the approval of a man who never claimed him. Family was about truth, loyalty, and love, and he would build that for himself, even if it meant starting from scratch. He slid into the driver's seat, wiped the last tear from his cheek, and whispered into the silence, I'm free. And with that, he drove away, not as the son who was cast out, but as the man who had finally reclaimed his own story. Like and subscribe for more interesting stories.